Good evening and welcome to episode 98 of the Eve Prosper Market Show. I'm your host Lockefox, and we are streaming live through the power of the internet to both Twitch and YouTube. If you want to catch us live, you only have a couple more chances to do so. That's at 0300 Thursday nights. 0300 Friday nights Eve time, Thursday night US time on Twitch and YouTube. But before we get way into that, let's go talk about some show stuff real quick. So again, welcome to the show. If you want to follow us, the very best ways to do so is just remember Eve Prosper. That'll get you to Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and our blog. We are, like I said in the intro, we are ending at episode Glorious 100 because I cannot count any higher. And it's been a great run, but it is time for things to change. So please do not get unsubscribed yet. I do believe we have some new content in the pipeline for you guys that you may enjoy. Think a little more real life, a little less space money. Try to work on developer and data science stuff in the real world, and bring that content to you guys in a way that demystifies some of the black magic, smoke blowing kind of stuff. With that, if you want to support the show for the last few episodes we're on the air, the very best way to do so is through our Patreon, which will be running to the end of June. If you want to throw a couple of bucks in the beer fund, or you want to help keep the servers running with our services like the Profit Endpoint into perpetuity, this is your best chance to get on that train, because the doors will close at the end of June. Every dollar that goes into the pot will go towards keeping those servers running, and so we can continue to run in perpetuity. And RIP to the Eve Guides guy who got screwed by the by PayPal. I really feel for you, but we're trying to avoid that by self-hosting and getting everything distributed so that we don't have to rely on a system that might screw us. So if you can't support us directly, that is completely fine. Absolutely understandable. Do get subscribed, though. Do tell your friends about your favorite market show. And if you're really sad that we're going off the air, we are not the only market show out there. I encourage you to go check out Rodin at EVNT TV on Tuesday nights at 0100 Eve time. Actually, Wednesday Eve time, Tuesday night US time. Number 2 is to go check out Christopher Mellen on YouTube with Miner Metrics, who's doing daily. I think he's still doing daily mining review and updates. He's also doing some amazing stuff over at Eve News 24. You should go check him out. He is going to be running the world here in a year or so. And then the one, the only, the original, of course, is DeLone Wolf over at Eve Talk on YouTube, the inspiration for this show, and will continue going after my retirement. So 07 to you, good friend. All right, we start the show where we always do, with Plex, which was on an astronomical rise, up over 2.6 million with the new mini Plex. That is a parity level of 1.4 billion. But the that heat has broken. So I had said last week that we were in such a spot that this is hard to predict. Seeing as we've gone so high off the relative strength index, we've run so strong. It ends up in a place where all the tools break down. And you're kind of like, yeah, whatever, just. I don't know. You kind of throw your hands in the air. It's kind of like what's going on with Bitcoin these days. Everyone's like, oh, it's going higher. It's going to go higher forever. Oh my God, $1 million. Oh, it's going to be amazing. And then the bubble pops and everybody's poor and destitute. And oh my God, I lost my house. So that's the problem here, is it's kind of like, the bubble will pop, but you don't know when, how. It's a falling knife thing. It's a real pain in the ass. So the heat has broken, and we're back down to, I guess it's 2.8 was where we were at the top, and we're down to 2.7, which is good. Good to see the heat dissipate. But if we zoom all the way out to a 1-year view, it's still not great. We're still a lot hotter than I believe we really should be. I'd like to see Plex under 2.6 million from where we're talking about right now, especially since volumes are a little on the thinner side. what I think we'll end up seeing when the May numbers come out, though, is that liquid cash in the system right now is just so ridiculously high. Like, and this is the thing I was warning about. And I should just contain my rant until the numbers come out, because I'm going to have a really good rant about this. That a hot system can be stable, but a hot system goes wrong faster. And I think that we've ended up in wrong because the economy has slowed down as we head towards final season, and we're going to go into the summer, which is a traditionally slow period for MMOs. And we have a lot of cash, a staggering amount of cash in the system, and nowhere for all of that energy to go. So I think that the Plex picture is going to get worse before it gets better. And I think you need to be strapped in for higher than a 1.5 billion per month price. And we could hit a 2 billion per month price in the November spike if the numbers worked out correctly. Like, that wasn't distinctly possible before the split, and it's now really a scary possibility. And the rant I did have, and I'm going to keep saying it because we're running out of time on it, is that the thing that needs to be fixed here is ratting incomes are too high. Like, they've been too high since Ascension. They've been too high since before Ascension, but Ascension really, kicked it off. And it's really, so on one hand, it's tied the devs' hands because it's basically some 70 or 80% of the cash coming into the game is coming from rats. So that's the only lever they have to turn that big chunk of the economy. So it doesn't give them much flexibility on what to do to talk about sinks and faucets. And it's going to the sort of people who are just farming it out and not really using it. And I know I've been catching flack recently from the Goonies and some of the null bears out there, but like sitting on these fat stacks, quote unquote, preparing for war, it's not, if the ISK isn't being moved, if it isn't going into the velocity statistic, it gets rotten and it's bad for the economy. So it's I'm not particularly happy about it. I think Plex is too high too fast right now. I think there's too much cash in the game as of right now. There's not enough destruction to balance that out, and the time to fix it is quickly running out because European vacation season basically starts last week of July. And so we're getting into the last sprint. So you better like the levers you have to pull to fix this, either you fix it in June, by the end of June, or it stays broken until the middle of August, or even into October, which is just going to make a big fat mess. So I'm not very happy about this. I really hope Recurve comes in and swoops in and like nukes Sanctum payouts like 20%, but like that, you're running out of time, you're running out of runway, and there's just no things are getting dangerous. And Plex is going to continue to skyrocket if we don't get the ISK thing if we don't get the ISK thing under control. I don't love talking about the inflation. Like, I don't love talking about inflation. I think that it's a bandied about too much, but in this case, I think that, we're in danger of going hyperinflation on Plex and causing some real messes down the line. So speaking of Plex, the reason that I at least can breathe about Plex is we're starting to see the supply chain come back. We were really thin right after the split, thanks to the order canceling effect. And after that, so this is normalized for monthly playing cost. And so this is essentially what Plex used to be. If we think about it in the split, we're still really thin. I'd like to be over 1,000 units on the market, and I guess that'd be 5,000 units. 500,000 units on the market, and we're we're running real thin on the ground for actual supplies. So it's getting better. It's just not getting better fast enough. Looking at skill injectors, again, sorry to all of you zombie farmers. The graph is still broken. I hope to have it fixed this weekend. I've got a developer to-do list longer than my arm, but it's high on my list to get done. We're starting to see supplies get really thin as the wave comes back through injectors. Looks like the new higher cost of Plex is finally getting attributed for. And at least one of my predictions is coming halfway right, is that this has been sort of the place to hedge your bets. And I think this may overcorrect in the positive in the short term. We might be able to see a spike up to 775, especially if we keep under this 400 units mark. And it's getting into an unstable spot. It's a little too late to jump on the bandwagon as a speculator. And that mini injectors were added, and I haven't had any time to read up on them, so I have no opinions. Go check out Rivra and the SCC Lounge if you want to talk more about those. I am sure Marsha Mallow has tons to say about them. I am way behind. Moving on to market indexes. We still have the bug in the RMT markets because, again, this is another broken plot that needs to have the split taken care of. But the thing that I was almost going to not include this, right? I was going to remove it from the thing and say, look, the net trade thing's broken. But the big piece of news here is the slump in everything but Plex, where mining is down, ships continue to slide under the 1 trillion mark is a place I do not like seeing them. And just for scale, this does not include all the way back to World War B, does it? I should fix that. We're under where we should be with Ascension and free to play, and we're like extraordinarily weak. And looking at the kill numbers, like you can totally see exactly why. We've really slumped in actual destruction numbers here in counts and in value. We're under the 1 trillion mark in value, which is just unacceptable. That's pre-Ascension normal. So like seriously, for all of the herf and derf and bluster, like people are not PvPing like they used to, even with faction gear and even discounting Tech 2 stuff, even all of the super capital proliferation, that's a word, that the number of things getting destroyed and the value actually leaving the game is churning slower. And the slower this cog runs, the slower the economy runs, the less volatility there is, the less opportunity there is for speculators, the less margin industrialists are going to make because the product doesn't move. Like, this is the engine of the economy, and it is slowing down, and it is not looking pretty, looking across the bow. So I am not particularly happy about this, but I don't know what to do other than continue shit talking in the hopes that people will fight. But like, seeing as I don't have a horse in the race, my shit talking doesn't really get people fighting, except they fight me, but I don't undock. So GG. Moving on to minerals. Let's talk about minerals. Let's talk about something good. Tritanium staying steady at 4.5. Not a lot to say. Wonderful to see some volume coming back into the market. Not a ton to say. Tritanium looking in, the volumes are getting a little bit hot, but not overly so. We might see a little bit of downward pressure to get us back down to 4.4, but things seem steady. Volumes coming out of mining seem about steady. Not a lot to say here. Pyrite, though, holy crap. I think I said last week, and this is why I need to go write my stuff down, is that this was at a decent place to buy in, but I'm pretty sure I told you guys not to, because it was going to be like you'll probably make money, I just don't know when. And then all of a sudden we break out from 5.2 up to 6.2 in a huge reset. And we can really see why there is a big buyout going on across pyrite. And well, depends on what flavor tinfoil hat you're wearing. This looks leaky if I were doing it, because again, we're not seeing the PvP numbers to back it up. When we look at fuel, we're not seeing the preparations for war going on. Most of the guys who are doing super capital production are vertically integrated. So, it's not like I don't really expect the supply chain to be slumping. This kind of looks more like some people know something that the rest of us don't. And I'm not sure exactly what. Like, so this is me being really flat-footed on the meta. I'm usually better at chasing this stuff down, but big reset in prices, big shortage on the ground, big opportunity here in the buy order space, which is closing quickly. So if you're watching this live, like, get your sub 5.5 buy orders in, because that door is closing. But it's definitely interesting. And I mean, I have been reading the news, of course. I can't not read the news. And when I'm not having a brain aneurysm over how fucking awful the world is, like, nothing came across my feed that hints at this, right? Like, they have the Alliance tournament going on. Well, the Alliance tournament's maybe gonna get Plex, but not until the bidding round. And rebalances are coming, but they're coming in the T3 realm, so that's not pyrite. No capital rebalance really going on. Like, there's there's a lot of it's weird. It's weird. I'm not seeing why it should be going on. All of the action right now should be on Plex and maybe in the T3 markets and the T3 subsystems, but not in pyrite. So I'm wondering what's going on here. Moving on, and this is the other half of the coin, right? So Mexilon keeps slumping, and Mexilon is our canary in the coal mine for capital production. And supplies on Mexilon are nice and healthy. So pyrite is being bought out, but Mexilon is oversupplied. And like, it's a great chance to be buying in sub 69 if you can. But like, this is really strange to see pyrite on one hand getting bought out in huge droves and Mexilon not following suit. So it doesn't look like it's going into capitals. So I don't know where it's going. Is it Ritaru's? Not Ritaru's. What are the Sotoyos don't really take that much materials, right? And like, they're all PI, and the PI markets aren't going up. Like, why is pyrite going up and nothing else is? So yeah, Isogen in the dumpster this week. It was hot last week. I thought we were going to stay steady over 50 in the 52 range, but I was wrong. Isogen disappointing me every week like a stepchild. Isogen is in the dumps. Now, it's interesting to see it collapse so hard because it's not really that oversupplied. When we look at it, the oversupply is just a hair over. And that if you just given me the bottom graph, I would say we should still be at 50. So I think we're undervalued at the moment. This is a decent chance to jump in and buy on Isogen, and I don't really say that lightly. So go ahead and temper that as you normally would for lock predictions. And just, it's very strange that this is dumping, pyrite is flying. Like, what the hell? I think it's undervalued at the moment, and it's a good chance to buy in. 48, buying in at 48 and aiming for a 52 is almost enough margin. I don't know if you can get all the way up to 52, but buying it at 45, 46 and getting out at 50, 51 might be the play here. So this is not a bad chance to jump on Isogen, even for all the crap that I give it. Noxium was hot. I thought it was going to stay hot, but I was wrong once again. We're under 360. I'd like to caution people who do like to pattern recognize that we can see doubles. Like betting on a 2 cycle is not terrible. It's hard to know when to bet on a 2 cycle is kind of the problem, but I have a really hard time betting on a 3 cycle, and buying at 360 isn't terrible. Sorry, not 360. Let's buy at 350. But you can see that the supply is pretty hot right now, so I'd expect to stay at 350. Again, same problem as the pyrite thing is that all other signals are in lockstep with our expectation for how much activity is going on. We expect that mining should slowly oversupply because there's just not enough getting destroyed. Production is usually about 3 times what destruction is. And as destruction slumps, production lags real bad. People are really bad about checking their numbers. So I expect to be under 350. And again, I wouldn't really bet on a pop. Now, getting in at that 340, 325 level isn't terrible, but I don't think it's a good long-term bet. It depends how long you want to hold it. And crystal ball gets really fuzzy outside of about a 6-week time cycle here. So not sure what to tell you for a long-term speculation. Moving on to Zydrine, we finally crashed under that 1,000 floor, and we're heading towards 900. And this is buy speculation in this is buy speculation at work, is that we see people propping up the price, and as soon as those crash into each other, we're going to drop, and we get down to 950. And I think that this train can slide all the way down to 900. I think that the volume needs to go up like another 10 or 15% before we can get to 900. But being under that 1,000 ISK mental barrier means that we have a lot more room to fall. So this could get really interesting in the upcoming weeks and might be a chance to watch for overcorrection. I'd be watching for the buy order flow. I'd be really watching the buy orders tight on something like adamforeve.eu, where you can see the buy and sell order depth, and looking for places to perhaps jump on close to the 900 floor, because this isn't a place that a big sell-off where somebody panics could easily drop the price under 900 on the buy side, where the sell might take a lot more time to get there. So this is a decent speculator turnaround station trader kind of opportunity, but you got to be on the ball. This is not a sit and wait. This is an active everyday check your numbers kind of thing. Next, Megasite had busted through the floor on a big sell-off ahead of the Plex split, but has stayed steady at 1,200. Not a lot to say here. Volumes are staying steady. Prices are slumping. We should see volumes get a little bit higher, heading towards the 125 million range. I'm not sure if we'll crash the price out of Megasite. It's a little bit of an unstable, foggy position. You might want to check the buy order depth, but I think this is reasonably uniform, and you're not going to see a lot of good opportunities to sit at like 115 or 116 and hope that it crashes down through you. I don't think the order depth is going to be really good for playing here. And then last, darling of the show, Morphite is down pretty hard this week. Hit 850. 8.5K this last week, but has rebounded to the 9K mark. Again, going to reiterate, this is my long bet for the end of the year, and I would be buying up very slowly, very gingerly. The thing you really want to do is be picking up these opportunistic buy orders down in the 8.5 when somebody sells off. Again, watching those buy and sell order depths is really going to be the key to maximizing returns and avoiding getting yourself screwed, because there's no reason you should pay retail on a bet that long. You really need to be grabbing up, like you shouldn't even be paying buy retail prices. You should be putting in discounts of 10. You should be baking in a 4% discount right off the bat. And waiting for these big sell-offs so that you can get a slice of the action as it crashes through you. So that's the play here. We'll see where we go. Still 50-50 on whether I'm going to be at all right. But if you play this low and slow, you're at least going to be able to unspin a bad decision that's small rather than jumping in whole hog on like a 10 billion-esque bet and sitting on it for 6 months, and the market goes the opposite way, and you're ruined. You lost 30%, and Lockefox's fault, and he's not even here. I'm going to cry into my space beer. Make it low, make it slow, keep your eye on the news. If the stuff coming out for the moon mining rebalance doesn't look favorable, slowly unspin that position. Like this is a long, slow bet. This is tortoise kind of stuff. So don't burn yourself out. Next, moving on to fuel. Fuel has been pretty interesting this week. Still reiterating the point that I think that helium and hydrogen are undervalued, especially ahead of the moon mining rebalance. But the moon mining rebalance isn't for several months, so it's a real tough pill to swallow. Buying in a big stockpile now and waiting for your payday when it finally shows up. We'll see when that happens. It was interesting to see that Galente fuel had its moment in the sun, but has come back around, and nitrogen is fallen back down to that 800 steady state. Looks like the lockout on new POS industrial structures is really taking a toll on industrial operations, and people are finally converting over to ECs instead. So interesting to see that we're steady at 800. I'd expect it to stay relatively there. I wouldn't make any big bets otherwise, though I do expect helium and hydrogen to at least get to 750. I just don't know when. Next, fuel markets are steady and stable. Not a lot to say here. Not a lot to say in the sub-markets, in the PI markets either. We're actually going to drop P4s this week. There was nothing to talk about. So PI markets are pretty stable. Strontium clathrates continue to stack. Lots of supply on the market. And doesn't look like anybody's going to go into a Savor, which is breaking my little Lord of War heart over here. That nobody's taking up a big fight. Heavy water is getting a little thin on the ground, says that perhaps we're finally seeing people get into their habits for mining fleets. There also might be a lot of people just holding the stuff. The supplies are a little bit shorter than I'd expected and are poised for a decent pop if you're a betting man, but I don't know if there's really enough action here to be gambling. You might make 5 or 6%, and that's really not enough to justify the kind of money you'd have to put in. Next, moving on to outliers. Not a lot to say here either. Nanotransistors are high, but looking at the moon markets underneath them, looks like that party is coming to an end. I'd want to get out of nanotransistor bets if I were holding them. The rest of the middle is looking weak. Fullerenes are down. Hypersynaptic fibers are down. There's a little bit of joy maybe in the low ends down in silceramic fibers could be turning around, or at least have a good on-ramp for buying. But the rest of the market is just looking pretty dull as we look out across stuff. Just the photonic metamaterials showing a high spot right now. Next, moving on through our outliers. Like I said, we're skipping P4s because there's just no action in them. There's not a lot to say, so we're not including them. Viators this week, way up, big buyout. Might be a sign that there's a burn event coming up, but could also be a supply shortage. There was a big buyout, big sellout. Prices are probably going to come crashing down this weekend. I'd expect to be back under 130 million. But if you're watching right now, you might get a chance to cash out. I'd be watching for overcorrection going into the weekend. We might see that there's an on-ramp somewhere in the 135 million. The prices stop falling and start tracking up into Sunday. You jump out by Wednesday and Thursday. It spikes over the weekend and crashes like a rock the next Monday. So it's another risky spot, but at least I feel a little bit better about the gamble here. I think that you could make a decent amount of money for the gamble. I just don't know. I don't know what the on-ramp is, unfortunately, here. So you're gonna have to do your math there. Next, the Zealot was triggering our analysis. It's been down in the dumps lately, but looks like it might be recovering. I'd be really careful here. Volumes are super thin, so this could overcorrect under 120 million. Keep a close eye on this. I think that a decent buy-in opportunity may be coming in the next 5 days, but it's going to be a really thin one. I wouldn't want to buy more than maybe 10 units of this stuff because you're going to be stuck holding it for a while. Next on our list of interesting ship patterns that are extremely low volume is Arazus, another favorite. I have a soft spot in my heart for the Arazu, but prices spiked over the week with a big sell-off. That's kind of weird to see this much actual orders moving and the prices going up. Big buy-in. Buy-in is the word we are looking for. Big buy-in, resetting the prices. This might have been an alliance tournament sort of thing where somebody was speculating on that, so we may not get the double dip. But I like going into the weekend. I think there's a decent on-ramp, but it's risky, and I don't know if you'll actually make your money back. Next interesting one coming from the Faction Warfare land, Caldari Navy Shield Boost Amplifiers are a bit down this week. Looks like there's a big sell-off coming from the Caldari right now. Good chance to be jumping in for some undervalued meta gear, but again, be careful. The supply volumes here are in the tens, so I wouldn't want to hold more than like 40 units of this stuff for when the price resets. Next, moving on to prediction review, where we figure out if I know what the fuck I'm talking about, and longtime fans of the show will know that I don't. Gonna go look in at T3 cruisers. These are going to be the darlings for the next few weeks as the T3 focus group comes together. Prices are down. Thank you, Probag Bear, for trolling me once again last week with your resets. The interesting thing to note in the T3 markets, my favorite canary here is to watch the nano ribbons, and they were taking a beating for a few months as a bunch of the wormhole guys were trying to cartel it and like hold back some volume to try and rescue the prices, but there wasn't enough T3 volume to really justify that kind of cartelling. Prices in the raw material markets for here are pretty stable and might actually be the better place to place bets, in the hopes that when they land the new position for T3s, that, well, I mean, they can't get much worse, right? Like, we can't get much lower than we're almost at 100 million on buy orders here across the board. Like, they can't get much worse. Buying in on the buy order side, on the material side of the picture, might give you a chance to ride the wave ahead of the wormhole guys who are looking for their payday. This might be the way to basically get ahead in line from the wormhole guys, is to buy up their cheap mats once they start they sort of figure their shit out and prices start going up, once supply chains start going around, like then you jump in, you sell to those guys, you sell them back their own shirts kind of thing, is the move I'd be looking to make if I were in that market. And again, T3Ds in this case, down pretty hard. Hecate is down under 30 mil. Jackdaw is really weak. Sveeple is really weak. I don't expect these to turn around as much, but again, this is, if you're going to bet on the second order, if the raw materials go up, then the T3Ds should follow. So this is another second order bet you could do. I think it's a little more risky because you still expect people to buy the final product. I like speculating in the industrial side. That might just be bias. So, and then last, I believe we talked about Stabber Fleet issues last week being way, way high ahead of a great chance to sell off. And we see a big price reset into this weekend, a great chance to buy in because we're slightly overcorrected. Here, just barely, like by a hair, here. And it was a decent chance to buy in. We're going to go into the weekend. Looks like we're going to see another positive spike, going into the weekend. So, it's probably too late to jump on this train. The crossover was 2 days ago, and, you really need to be, this is the problem of having a weekly show, is that, unless the crossover is like tomorrow, I can't really give you the easy bets of like make a ton of money doing blank. But yeah. And last, but certainly not least, a extremely disappointing violence report. Finally, excavator mining drones are showing up on the list. That warms the cockles of my heart to see those on there. I'm hoping that number just keeps on growing up to the 100 units destroyed a week. 100 units destroyed a day would make me so happy. Oh man, this is my favorite thing right now, is that the excavator drones are finally showing up on the list. But it's partially because the list here is just so thin on things to do. So everyone else is making up the list as we usually see. Vexor Navy issues are ahead, higher than usual. Macarials are lower than usual. The rattlesnakes are pretty low. The counts are a little bit disappointing. The value destroyed are super disappointing. All right, talking about active systems. The interesting thing on the active systems list is that there are no nullsec systems on the system list, guys. So all you null bears who say I'm being so unfair to Goonies, like fucking kill each other. You're supposed to be out in no security space, and you're not fucking killing each other. Like you're really not. It's really not that badass, right? Stop shooting NPCs and shoot each other. Get on it. Looking at the active regions, Catch and Providence bringing up the null picture there, but they're beat out by Black Rise. Once again, faction warfare is having way more PvP fun than nullsec. The only thing that's keeping nullsec in the running is big whelps in Catch and Providence in the last 2 weeks. So, like, if you guys are such badasses, why the hell aren't you just killing each other instead of making trucks of money? Like, seriously, how boring is that? Anyway, so that's going to be our show. I want to thank everybody who tuned in live. You can tune in live for the last couple of shows we have on the schedule at 0300 Friday nights. That's Thursday night US time. You can tune in on both YouTube and Twitch at Eve Prosper. I want to thank everybody who tuned in live. I want to thank Christopher Mellen, who is our editor, who makes sure that all of you YouTube guys watching the VOD get all of the flubs removed, because he is amazing at his job. Go check out his show, Minor Metrics, and check out his work on Eve News 24. If you want to support the show as we sunset the things, do check out our Patreon at patreon.com/EveProsper. If you want to keep our services on running in perpetuity, whether I'm here or not, that is where you need to go be putting dollars in the beer fund, because that is what's going to keep the lights on in the long term. And I'd like to remind you, after today's fallout from Eve Guides, where the guy got burned off of PayPal shenanigans, this is a much safer way for us to raise money. This is a much easier way for us to secure the future of our tools, is through our Patreon fund. So that's my pitch there. If you can't support us monetarily, that is perfectly fine. Do get subscribed. I know that the show here is ending, but if you like the graphs, if you like the economics, if you like getting way too deep into things that probably don't matter, you should stick around, because I am going to have a treat for you guys on the technical side. And very last, before I close the broadcast out, if you want to get in touch with me, the very best place is on our Discord. Links to come join should be down in the doobly-doo below. And that is the absolute best place to get in touch. I am active on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and the blog. Not so much on the blog. I'm moving the blog eventually. Should stay at eveprosper.com. But the best place to get in touch with me is on Discord, and I answer PMs. I love talking to you guys and answering your questions. Come talk to me there. Anyway, with that, I'm going to end the show. Thank you everyone for tuning in. I have been your host, Lockefox. This has been the Eve Prosper Show, and I am signing off.